So I'm using my other phone to show what place I got at regionals yesterday. When I got home, I started eating and I don't remember finishing or falling asleep. So I just woke up. It was like 6 hours of sleeping and I can't sleep. There's a lot of things on my mind. There's a lot of things bothering me. But I wanted to just do the video to just distract me, and looking forward to Pokemon DLC December 14th. So this is my other phone. I took a picture of a picture. But we got 111th place out of 391 people that went. And I got screwed out of judge rulings on 2 of the games on the 3rd match where it mattered by the judge's ruling. Well, one was a judge ruling, and the other was just fucking retarded. I'm gonna showcase the video real fast, and then somebody promised that they were gonna come over, and you know, these little things affect people. Where, you know, I do my thing to focus on other things, but you know, when somebody promises and says that their word is their bond, and then they say they're gonna come spend time with you afterwards, so I was like, you know, win or lose, I was like, you know what, spending time with a person so I won't be alone. You know, it was like, whether I win or loss, that was what I was looking forward to. And then to be told, I'm on my way, I already left, I've been driving for like an hour, I'm almost there. And then all of a sudden, like, the person saying, oh, it's raining, do you really think it's safe for me to go there? And like other things, and I was like, oh, I haven't even left my house yet. So I was like, how did you not leave your house yet when you said you were already driving for like over an hour? And now, like, it was already something, I already felt it beforehand. So it was like with the 2 screws in the game, one game was, it was the 3rd match. He had 1600 light points. He attacks into Utopia Lightning. I have 2 materials. I can detach. It's a 28 hitter monster. I know I can detach, juice up my monster Lightning to 5,000, and I would have had game. Also, Lightning's effect. You cannot activate, once you choose him as a target, whether you're attacking into him or I'm attacking you, you cannot activate nothing. So he's talking so aggressively saying, yes, he can. I'm like, no, you can't. He is like, his effect is not a activated effect. I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'm not too sure, but I'm like pretty sure it doesn't matter when you're attacking into lightning, and then like I still get my effect. Like, you cannot activate anything, and I still get my effect to detach and pop too, to power him up. So it's like I would have had the game because he had 1,600 light points left. I had 3,300 light points. So if his effect, if he says what he says and it goes through, then he would have attacked over my Utopia Lightning, and then attack with a defense position monster. It's a, I forgot what it was called, but it's a 3,000 defense monster. And it says, if one of his other monster attacks, I can't activate card effects or anything in response to it. But my lightning effect activates first. So it should be lightning's effect overrides that. So I still get my effect. So he's getting so angry and aggressive, and his body language is like he's getting pissed off. And I'm like, you can't do that. So I'm like, lightning's effect activates first. It's like, it's not one's going to counteract the other. Mine goes first, so it just shuts all your stuff off. So then he calls a judge, and the judge is not sure because, you know, all these situations are, it's hard being a rogue player and then playing my deck my way, because there's like situations come up where it's like there's no ruling because nobody's ever been through it. Except when I create these scenarios where, you know, I need a ruling and like there's nothing on it, so we have to go off of what the judge says. So the judge calls over another judge, and then they're like, oh, his lightning does activate, you cannot activate nothing. But then he goes, oh, but my other card activates afterwards. I'm like, he's like, you shouldn't. So they're arguing, and then he's getting like aggressive. So, you know, serving in the military, I'm looking at their body language and they kind of look scared. So it's like I'm pretty sure they ruled in his favor. Like, you can hit me up if tell me what happens. But I know, like, they ruled in his favor out of fear. And I'm like, that's not fair, because, like, that's game for him. And I know I had game and everything, and, like, you're just siding with him just because you're scared. And I'm like, you know what? It's whatever. I'm like, it's not whatever, but it's like, it fucking sucks. And I'm like, I have to put, their safety into consideration, being that I'm not in the military no more, but I served. So it's like, I have to just de-escalate the situation. Like, it's not that serious. It's a card game. But this loss shouldn't be a loss. And I don't want him to get angry to the point he gets up and starts hitting them, or I can handle myself. I'm trained to do what I do, but I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. Then the other game loss was to Runic, a Runic player, and they called time in the round, but he decided to talk to the judge, and I'm like, he was doing stuff he can't do. Like, he was changing one spell to another spell, and I'm fine with that. But before the second spell resolves, the first one would have popped one of my Horus. He was popping the spell card, and I'm like, I get my Horus effects. And he goes, no, I'm popping both of them at the same time. And he waited for one of them to resolve. I'm like, if you're letting that resolve before you activate the other one, I get my effects. He goes, no, I'm chained to it. I'm like, you can't chain once you activated one of the spell cards, and then it has to resolve, or I get my Horus cards. And then saying, oh, once that resolves, I'm chaining the other one. I'm like, you can't chain something to something that's already resolved, like you're starting something new. But I get my effect if you're chaining to it. And then he goes, he's talking to the judge, and because the judge was there looking. And I'm like, then he solemn judgments, and it's a fucking counter trap. And then he goes, I chain a quick play spell, one of his quick play Runic cards, to his activation of his own solemn judgment. And I'm like, everybody in the fucking world knows you cannot activate a spell speed quick play after a counter trap. The only thing that could activate a counter trap is another counter trap. And I know for a fact there's no fucking counter spells. Like, I sat there thinking for a second. I'm like, is there? I'm like, no, there's not. You can't do that. And then he's talking to the judge. Like, he's not arguing, but it's like that little girl from the Animaniacs. Why can't I do this? Why can't I do this? And the judge is just looking at him, and like, they already called time in the game, and like, you're just talking to fucking kill time. And he's going, why can't I activate a spell card right after chaining it to a counter trap? And then, like, we're all looking at him. I'm like, are you fucking, like, in my head, I'm like, I try to be so fucking nice, but I'm like, are you fucking stupid? Did you just start playing Yu-Gi-Oh? And if you did, how are you knowing all these priorities and all this other stuff, but you don't fucking know the fact that a counter trap, nothing comes after that except another counter trap, and you're playing a spell, and then you're just asking, why can't I? Why can't I? And then because he's talking to him and they're already called time in the round, this motherfucker goes, can I get a time extension for you explaining that to me? And I'm like, that's not fair. They already called time in the round, and he's asking stupid fucking questions, and fucking, it's just, and this whole scenario was because he activated already a few solemn judgments. He had 2,600 light points. I have full light points, but because of his runic cards, I had no more cards on deck. So all he had to do was end turn, and I would have lost for deck out. But they already called time in a round. It was his turn, and he had less light points. So he's doing that, and I'm like, and then the judge says, yeah, he was talking to me, asking questions, so he's gonna get a 2-minute extension. I'm like, that's not fucking fair. They already called time in a round. He had less light points. It was game 3, and he was asking, like, it wasn't even a real question. It was like, why can't he activate a quick play and chain to counter trap his own solemn judgment? So I'm like, I got screwed out of 2 games. I'm like, oh, what the hell? I should have went X2, but ended up X4, and these motherfuckers didn't even win, or they topped. They didn't. They ended up losing the rest of their games, and it's like, what was the whole point? You know how hard it is to be a rogue player and playing a deck that nobody else is playing and doing good, and then you, not only is it a struggle, one, to actually have a strategy and think of a way to just counteract the meta, and you're doing so well, and then you run into these players. So it's like, what the hell? It's like, but going X4, people are like, oh, you still did good with those 2 game losses. I'm like, it's not fair. It's not fair. And then, you know, that, and then the person, like, canceling at the end for, like, it's like, I already knew they weren't going to come. But it's like, don't hype me up for something so small, like, wanting to spend time with me. And I'm looking forward to it, to just dub me. And it's like, you weren't even real in the first place. And, like, I knew it from beforehand, but it's like, that's whatever. I got my packs. I'm going to do the deck profile real fast. I'm going to say tech choices. This is realizing everything. There's very few Utopia cards. So I minimized the draw engine to just draw. Because if I could draw enough and go into the Horus cards, then I can do other stuff. And I utilize using the Horus cards with the restrictions of Joker Straight. And I did well. I had, even some games I ended up on just 3 negates. And they couldn't play that. Some people couldn't play past 1 negate. And then when I saw Vanity's Ruler, and I played that, some people couldn't do that. So it's like, you know, I shut things down. And I was like, this is my Dark Magician, old school. And it says you can't play. You could play, but you have to set a card or attack over him or just get the outs. I bricked twice, but I still won those games. And one game, I drew both queens, both kings, and Joker Straight. And I'm like, you can't be serious. I'm like, I looked at the guy. I'm like, you're horrible. He starts laughing. I'm like, this is impossible. But obviously it's possible because I drew it. So I'm like, he ended up winning that game, but I won the other 2. Because knowing what cards, I built the deck for going first. And I had extra deck cards to switch in. Like, it wasn't meant to counteract any other deck. But they're going second cards. Like, if you draw Lightning Storm, Change of Heart, and certain other cards, and you go first, like, those are bricks you could just lose. So I took all of those out, and I had going first cards. And then, you know, when I won second, I switched them out. So it's like, you know, and it works. So it's like, learning that is crucial to winning games. And there's times they had going second cards, going first, and I just OTK'd. And, you know, the Horus cards, even by themselves, winning a bunch of games. They impermed Bauer, because they know with Bauer, I can do a lot with it by himself. And he replaces the card in hand, so if I have the Horus cards already, I'm still summoning him, ending with like 3 big monsters, or whatever I want to, or even 1 negate. I can end up with 1 negate with him, and I still replace it by going into Double or Nothing, Utopia. And then the spell card comes to hand. So it's like it's replacing him, and then I could go into the Horus stuff. So I baited out all their Ash, all their negates. And some games, I played Call by the Grave, and I drew it. So I'm like, the one of, I saw a lot in the game. So I'm like, there's no way I'm seeing this one of so good. So like, but, you know, I went to have fun. And I kept trying to remind myself, have fun, even though those people killed it. So I should have been X2, but, you know, it is what it is. And I'll open the packs after, but this deck just did its thing, and people were caught off guard. I had 2 people who subscribe, and they were real cool, and like I said, they said, damn, I should have waited for this negate, but none of them knew my deck. None of them were prepared for my deck. None of them knew how to counter my deck. And I'm like, that's the best part, is having they don't have the knowledge of my deck, so they want to know what to do. So like, it gave me the advantage, and even when they sided in, sided out, I still proceeded to 1. I beat Bestials. I beat those pirate cards. I forgot what it was called. I beat Flunderies, and it was a game to be like seen, because it's like, you know, they do their thing and you can't play, but I was able to counteract things, and he couldn't play at all 2 games. Like, he won 1, but, you know, I went first because I won the dice roll. And all day I was winning my dice rolls. And since I went going first builds, it did its thing. So I'm gonna stop talking because it's already 14 minutes. I decided to, you know, the raw cards, I love them, but they're only good going second. So I ran 3 Bauer. He did his thing, because if they don't deal with him, then it just leads to other things. He could end up with a 1 negate, going to double, go into the big 99 monster, and then, you know, he has 2 materials. You can detach 2 and just go into Hope Harbinger or any 1 negate if you play it. So by himself, he can end up with 1 negate and a spell in hand. So then you can use Horus cards. So like I said, he did his thing, and I saw him plentiful. 2 queens, 2 kings, 3 straight, and 1 wild. I was playtesting against myself, just shuffling hands and stuff, and I had this at 2. But then there was most of the times I kept seeing 2. I'm like, I want to minimize drawing bricks, and I want to do something, and not to the point of playing Joker's Wild and then just summoning 2 on their turn and not hoping to not lose. When, you know, more the meta decks, like, I do that, they can still banish, remove, and just OTK still. So I'm like, I'm gonna put it to 1, and they did its thing. There was plenty of times I even drew 1 queen, and I'll set it, and I set the trap, and I have Vantage Rulers in hand, and they'll attempt to special summon a monster. I'll activate Joker's Wild, special queen, Surge King, and then I get an immediate normal summon of a monster. So being that I have both queens on the field, I tribute both for Vantage Ruler, and one guy was like, he can't do that. He called the judge, and I'm like, that was how it all began. I'm like, yo, it's in 1 effect. It's in 1 shot. So it's like a specialist queen, searches king, I get an immediate normal summon monster, and it's meant to bring out Jack. But in my case, the way I use it was to just tribute both of them and summon Vantage Ruler, and then he's like, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. And the judge came over and he says, why not? It says this, it's 1 continuous effect. Unless you ash him or stop it ahead of time, from the beginning, all of it goes through. And then he was upset because he already wasted his ash and his 2 imperms. And I ended up just setting that and then going from there. So it did its thing. It was good at 1. And then that was it for the Arcana Knights. Sorry. Then I decided to opt in 3, 1, and this is just a free extender opening up. And then if you go into just this, helped me out often, where I can special summon this, and if I drew 1 of the knights, even queen or king, there was a game that just special normal summon them, and then I'll go into Utopia Double. This will search the rank up spell, and since now I have the rank up spell, you know, you just go to the next level for free, and you could bring out the 99 monster with 2 materials, and that's 2 negates. And sometimes I did that, and then it was like, let's say it was these 2 or the queen. It's like this summons for free, bring out queen, and then all for the 2 monsters I get the spell in hand. And then that still leaves, what I'm saying is, like, it left 3 other cards in my hand, and there was 1 game I had 3 Psalms, and just this and King. So then I went into this, going into the big 99 monster with 4 materials, and then I used this first material to go into, whatchamacallit? Since the spell's in the graveyard, you know, it becomes attached. So I used the first 2 cards to go into this, and then the spell activates in graveyard to attach itself, so I get the negate. So that was 1 negate. And then on his turn, knowing that I can use the other monster effect, I went into Hope Harbinger. So now I have a monster negate, and I had Hope Harbinger as a spell negate, and then I had the 3 Psalms face down, so that was 5 cards, and he couldn't play through that, and it was a game. Now, because I already had 2 3,000 monsters and a 25, he goes, yeah, that's game. You couldn't do nothing. So that one subscriber that kept saying, instead of the draw and all the other stuff, why don't you just set up the Utopia cards to just bring out negates? You were in the back of my mind, and I was saying, why not? So then, you know, I changed it to, like, let me just set up negates, and if they can't play through it, they just can't play. So I was seeing that almost all my games, and it worked. So this at 3, getting into the spell, the rank up spell, like, helped. And then I'm definitely going to change this out. I ran 3 because I wanted to see this, so I can draw, and then if I don't see the horror stuff, I can draw into the horror stuff, which helps sometimes, because then it adds more negates. And if I saw this with this, and whether it's king or whatever, this just gave me extra draw power, and then it's like I would not go into the monster I showed, because the horror stuff, even with Joker's Wild or Joker Straight, it locks you into like Warriors. So it's like those 2 cards, I can just bring out all 4 Horus, and I can go into this. I will use this for the first 2 to go into this just in case they had Nunber or anything, so it would negate something. And then I used the other 2 Horus monsters to go into this, and this helped out a lot too. Where I negated, and then their card was unaffected by other cards, so it just helped tremendously. And then both of them were detaching, so both of the Horus would just come back next turn. While the 99 monster just brought out different negates like Hope Harbinger and one of the other monster negates. And even without that, I'll do that when I get to that. Let me just finish the deck. One of the spell, and if I already had this and I happen to go into that, I would search XYZ import, the 1 double or nothing, and then to end it out, reinforcements. And I used this mainly. They ashed this, and the guy was like, oh, I was going to use this to search him out when I had Bauer already, and Bauer could do his thing going into the 1 negate. But I have Bauer and the rank up spell, so I can do the thing just off of that and still have 2 negates with Bauer and the rank up spell. And then he said, damn, he shouldn't have ashed this. He should have ashed the other thing. I'm like, I would have had it either way. But I let him negate this because I had the Call by the Grave. But if he didn't negate this, or I would have negated it anyways, I would have drew, but I wasn't sure what else he had in his hand. So I was like, it was good you did this, because then I still won because I had a whole bunch of negates on the field, but I just didn't have draw power, so I just had what I had on hand. And I'm like, at least with you negating this, I would have had even more stuff for you to deal with that I would have drawn into. And there was a few players that they said they had drawn Lockbird in their deck, but they didn't draw it. So it's like, you have to see the cards in order for it to work for you. I'm like, that would have shut down my deck. One person still lost, but he played Shifter. And I'm like, that does hit my deck, because all my cards need to resolve a graveyard or go to graveyard to activate first. But, you know, it is what it is. So that's it for that. It's a 40 card deck too, if you're wondering. 3 Horus. People were amazed at the rarity. I played one of this one. I love using, like I said, I keep using one of each of them, except the 3 of the Searcher. Cause then I can end up with 1 negate and then 2 negates even off of that by itself. And sometimes I could, like, he impermed the Bauer, so then I had the spell, so I ditched the other 3 cards in hand, and I went for, I summoned this, and the 2 ones with monsters, just in case he had imperm. And I was like, I'm going to summon these just in case, because in this game, because that's within the 3, the 24, and the 25, that's 7,900. And since he imperm Bauer, if I tribute Bauer, it wouldn't have gotten his effect. But Bauer gives me that little 100 that's over to win. So I managed to just push for game for simple with that. I ran 3. Because I wanted to see the spell, just in case I don't get into the Searcher. Or they'll negate Mseti. And if I had the spell card, then, you know. So I had 2 collectors rare and 1 regular. And only because I wanted to bump it up. I originally wanted to use 2. But I wanted to see it. And it came in clutch when I did see it. So this was my build for this. And then first time ever using hand traps, so I only ran Ash, and there's a lot of games that when I ashed them they had nothing and they passed turn and I OTK'd, and I'm like, I asked often, I'm like, can I Ash? And they were like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, Ash. And the only reason I was asking because like before all my builds, if you look at all my builds, I don't run hand traps unless the card goes with the deck, like the Blue Eyes card that burns, that's a hand trap before them. So I just kept asking, and I'm surprised Ash like shut down decks and they couldn't do crap, and I proceeded to OTK. So I'm like, this, and then I felt bad. I'm like, oh, I know how hard it is to try to play, and then one card shuts your deck down or your combo line and you have nothing else. And I still said thanks and everything. Like, yeah, it is what it is. You have to do what you need to win. So Ash came in real handy. I saw it often, especially if I went into my draw package and I drew into Ash and they really had nothing. So when they went, it was like Ash and negate everything else on the fields negates and him in hand. It was like 3 Solemns, one called By the Grave, and I saw it often today, which is surprisingly, I wasn't expecting to, but it was there. They would sting, and then, you know, going second, I would side it out and put Change of Heart, and I never saw Change of Heart at all. One Secret Village, which helped when I ended up on Mseti. Played Secret Village. The Runic player couldn't do nothing. And some other players, they had spell cards for their decks and only spells, so they couldn't do nothing either, so it helped. And I kept saying this is my Dark Magician on my deck. So like play Joker straight, bring out King and Queen, and then tribute both of them because those are free. And then tribute for your regular normal summon. And I brought out Vantage Ruler to shut things down. Sorry. So that was it. It's an exact 40 card deck. It did its thing. I love it still, regardless of those two. I gotta let it go. I gotta let it go. Some people, not all, are unreliable, and I'm a person of my word. If I say I'm gonna be there, I'm gonna be there, unless something really came up that's affecting me. I'll always be there for people, but it sucks when you don't have nobody really there for you. Sorry. Number 39, double, you know, that's what it does. Then, like I said, I used it to draw, so like if I went into the draw package, I would, and I don't have the rank up spell, I would go double, draw a card, activate effect, search out double or not, and go into him. And then I'll use him to go into Utopia, and then Utopia will climb into him for free. That gives me another draw, and then I will go and end on lightning, and that was it for the draw power. I had other builds that you can draw up to like 8-9 cards, or for Utopia cards, but then they took up space for every other card in the deck. So I'm like, I want to dig enough in if I can see what I want. If I don't, shit happens. It's not guaranteed, but I saw everything, and there were some games I would go into him, draw off of the spell, the continuous spell. And then I fucking drew 2 games. I drew the double or nothing. I'm like, I hate this. Why? I'm like, why? I still ended up winning, but I was like, why? Because now he would have been sitting there, but I had lightning. So then I just ranked up for free the lightning, and I still drew 2 cards, even though one was dead. And then I went into the Horus stuff, and then I negated one, you know, few of them. I just negated one thing, and they couldn't play. So, but normally I would go double, which was draw 1 if the spell card's there first. Then climb into him free, well, off of the spell, draw another card. So it's like drawing 5 cards. And there are times I summoned Bauer, and I went into double because I had the draw and the Searcher, Astro, in my hand. So then I'll summon him, which, you know, you missed the 1 draw, but then I'll summon the Astro, ditch one of my other cards, and then search the spell, and then play the spell. So that way I detach, and then I'll draw 4. So I still drew 4 instead of, you know, the initial 1. But that's basically the idea of this. And then he can bring out anything. So if you summon Bauer, going into double, going into him, he won't get nothing. Like, you won't get the benefits of like summoning the other monster because you don't have the rank of spell to attach, so it can get its negate. But off of just him going into these by himself, you can summon Hope Harbinger, and there was a game I did that very thing, and Hope Harbinger negated his spell when he had nothing. So it was like that one negate sometimes is all you need. But I also wanted the dragons for multiple reasons. It's also a material if I want to use him going into him. You need a dragon number monster. That's a dragon number monster. So it's like there are duels. Matter of fact, I'll put these here, you know, showcasing also 97 and Numeron. So like if I went into, there was games I OTK'd because he negated other stuff, but I would go into the monster that lets me get the rank up spell, the ZS monster, and I'll summon one of the King or Queens. So then I have the spell card for attachment. So then, you know, you go into double, and then since you have the rank up, you would go into Utopia off of this, and then you go into C9, and then you play the spell going into him. So then you have the spell in graveyard, and he has 4 materials. So it's like, other than 2 of the Horus cards going into this and bringing him out, that's 9,000 damage. There were games I had 3 Exceed monsters on the field, and the second one was this going into that combo, and then I would go just for safety precautions. I would go into... This is not with Joker Straight. This was just off of the monsters. So it's like I had the horror stuff and I had the monsters. So I would go into this first because the ZS has to be special summoned first while you control no cards. And then I'll go into this, and then I was like, I wasn't sure, looking at the person's face, just in case you have Nibiru. Then I did the horror stuff, and I summoned him just in case. So then he was on field at, you know, he has rank 8. I'm saying it for a reason. And then he's rank 10. And then an alternate way, like I said, instead of 2 horrors bringing him out to bring him out at 9,000, I will summon him, and then him. And then if you have the rank up spell in the graveyard, he would bring him out. Off this. So it's like it's a bridge and other ways to bring him out. So then I used him to bring him out. And since you have the spell in graveyard, it attaches. And then you use his effect to bring him out, and I always attach him. I have Hope Harbinger, but I always attached him just in case I wasn't using him to him, and have Hope as a backup just in case. And then, you know, with this on the field, this on the field, and this on the field, then you use his effect. He gets powered up by all of them. So it's like 2 8s and a 10. That's 26 plus him. Then it's like I just punched their one monster in the face, and it's like they're like, yeah, that's beautifully overkill. I'm like, it's not overkill, it's like guaranteed. Like I need a knockout chat one monster guaranteed just in case. And yes, I was running the one SP Little Knight. So in game states where I did go into him, and I negated, I banished something going first, and then I went into everything else. While, like, I ditched one of the spells to the graveyard to go into him, to go into these, and because it's like, this left them with one monster on the field, and they was like, you know, you can't attack with all the other Exceed monsters because this is on the field. And I was like, yeah, I know. So it was like, I had him on the field. I already used his effect because I sent one of the other regular monsters, and I sent Coach using its effect to the graveyard to bring him out. And since I'm not under restrictions, he banished. So I got rid of the negate and the problems in the back, and he had one monster that was 16. So within that one monster that was 16, since nobody else can attack and I have beefy monsters on the field, I had to go into him, going into him. So it's like I had to basically... Everybody give your energy to Goku so I can punch your monster in the face for game. And then, you know, him on the field, and him on the field, that's more than enough. Because I can't attack directly, so once that first monster is destroyed, so like going to him, and he locked me out of all the other stuff if I go into this, but it's like, you're going for game. So it's like, you know, it's a bridge. Whether you're using him, if you have the rank up spell to go into him, that's just added more power. Because even off of these two alone, he's rank 10. And he is 8. So that's 18. 18 plus him is 19. That's 19,000. So, and that's all for, like, let's say 2 cards. Like, you're summoning ZS and Queen. You went into him, you get the rank up spell. You go into him, he gets the spell to attach. He uses him. And then it's like, you're just punching for game. So it's like, I just found a way to bridge the horror stuff with this, and like it's without realizing, the person's like, that's not really it has Utopia for draw, but it's not focused on that. You have a number deck that's not like any other deck, that's like Numeron Network and everything. You made Arcana Knights with a small package of Utopia stuff and the Horus going into number cards, and you know, Hope Harbinger, Baguska. Like I said, there was one game where I used him to set up one negate. I negated that one card, and then he tried to continue playing, and then you use his other materials on their turn to go into Baguska, and then Baguska puts everything in defensible so that he couldn't play. And then this came in handy one time, and there were duels I could have won even faster, and I forgot I had this when my opponent special summons 2 more monsters. So it worked when it did. And I got this last minute because I'm like, I used the first Light Warrior. If you're locked into Joker Straight and you manage to bring out the Horus cards, the first one would be number 90. You can turn, like, instead of having the Horus cards just sit there, you can have 2 of them turn into him and, you know, protect you from Nibiru, unless you get Imprim first and then Nibiru. or they attempt Nibiru first, and then you activate your cards to negate, and then they imperm you. Or, yeah. But, you know, it is what it is. And then I'm like, the other two, I Googled Light Warrior level 8s, and this came up. And this helped me a few duels too. Like, where I negated a bunch of duels I've won with this, because it negates their stuff, and then it's unaffected by their other stuff. So they try to poly or whatever with their other cards, they couldn't do nothing. And then even the Thunder Reach player, I'm like, I played him, like, super nice, chilled guy. And I had both of these on the field, and like, I negated one of his birds, and then I ended up negating the other one. I had Solemn in the back, and like, he couldn't play. Like, you got this. I'm not gonna sit here. I'm not gonna waste time. There's no way for me to come back. You got this, and I'm happy I lost to a unique deck that's like no other. And, you know, it is what it is. So it was like, you know, the deck did what it did. My idea worked when it worked. I got screwed over 2 games, but the shits that happen at lower end tables before you get to the top, if you don't make it through those, it's like, I should have went X2. But yeah, it's basically a number deck in a way. We're gonna showcase the real, like, he helps brings out most of the stuff. And like I said, he replaces a card in hand, so if they don't deal with him. Oh, another thing would be him, like, if I wanted to just go for power, let's say they negate everything else, and then I just have power, but I can attack for, let's say, mad damage or game, if, depending on what their monsters are. It would be double. He would go into 99, and then 99 I would use to go into the dragon, and then, you know, this is in graveyard, so then I use the dragon to bring him back. He would be in defense mode, I believe, off of his effects, and then you just rank up into lightning. So then off a double, he's 6,000, 4,000, and then you have the 25, and then when he attacks, you know, they can't activate nothing, so he doesn't get the double, the boost to 5,000, but this is not bad. Off of just Bauer by himself, going into one card, going into this, going into this, going into this, uninterrupted, it's like 6,000, 4,000, and 25 Dark Magician status. And even in one game I won, basically just bringing him out and going into Utopia, negating Utopia's effect, double 9 activating, going to 10,000. So, and as long as their monsters under 2,000 this game, so like, you know, it did its thing. Like I said, there's multiple things within it. So, time's going by. Sorry, I'm not trying to. The one raw, I was switching these going second, and they came in clutch when I did draw them, and I cleared their boards and proceeded to OTK. 3 sphere modes, because, you know, I love the gods and the Egyptian stuff. And games where I know they ended up on 2 monsters, because they know I have Wind Dragon and Rock, because I played it. Then I would just switch the sphere modes out and go into the droplets, because then the droplets I can discard 2. And I can negate the 2 monsters, because I can't sphere mode them. So it's like, logically, it would be better to just switch into this, and then you have your Bauer OTK. One change of heart. I would switch this in going second and take out the Call by the Grave. It only makes sense to take out something, a 1-0 for a 1-0. The 1 Harpies, 2 Lightning Storms. Playing against Runic players, you know, so I did this in, at least they couldn't play spells, and I did summon it. I saw like 3 Runic players I played. And then I didn't see these at all, because nobody was playing traps, and then if it was traps, it was counter traps. So I had the answer to that regardless. But I didn't use these at all. I didn't sight them in, not once. And yeah, that was it. So there was a lot of people saying you should still be proud, even if you went X4 with a rogue deck, your own way, your own idea. And I'm open these, because these might have a collector's rare. So, but you know, the 2 games that screwed me over, and then the person letting me down is like, you know, my feelings. But oh, one player that told me about this, he goes, "Did you know about this card?" I'm like, "I don't know about that, unless I see it on YouTube or somebody tells me about it." I'm like, this goes good with the Horus cards. If you're not on the restrictions, summons, when it's summoned, pops everything on the field. It's like a dark hole for your both your monsters, and then it can also pop up a spell. I'm like, it's not bad, so I can use this in the future builds, or if I want to run. I'm planning on running Horus with just Raw when the other Horus cards come out, the field spell and the Horus Dragon. I'm gonna make a deck just playing Raw with them. All right, so let's see what we got. Armor. And, you know, I miss playing on Blue Eyes, but, you know, when I go with one deck, I'm like, damn, I wish I brought the other deck. And then when I bring that deck, it's like, damn, I should have brought this deck. But, you know, I wanted to give the Arcana Knights a spotlight. I need something better to hold us. Fire recovery. Sorry, I'm not a real YouTuber. Just sharing information and stories. That's what we're here for, right? Help each other to be better. Snake Eye Birch. I'm gonna go back to sleep, wake up, work out, try to just focus on December 14th. Making my deck better. Yeah, look. People really pulled this going in at the sneak peek. It's funny, I draw one out. Pull one out. What is that? Snake Eye? Oh, sorry. I went off camera. Just look at the others. Well, that's it. We did what we did. We tried our best. And that's all you can really do. There's always next time. So we're definitely gonna list cards I want to change up because I want to do less bricks. So I might cut the spell card to 2 maybe, or put it at 1. It's good if you see it. Otherwise, I've had a lot of games where I didn't see the draw spell at all, but I still ended up on enough negates that they couldn't play. So I might cut it back down to 1. Maybe side out 2 and put in Summoner's Monk. So on chances they negate other stuff, I can use it as bait. And if it goes off, I can ditch a spell, bring out the draw, go into the 1 draw. And if I have the draw, I can go into the ZS monster. And, you know, there's just room for improvement. Win or lose, there's always room for improvement. And sorry it's a long video, but keep your head up. Keep playing what you love, and you can still win. Like, I went against the meta, and I won most of the metas, and it is what it is. Much love. Happy holidays. Christmas is coming up. So, December 14th, Snipey, I'm looking forward to, and make this deck even better, because I still love this deck no matter what. Win or lose, I love playing what I play. Whether it's this or Blue Eyes, or Exodia when Mystic Mind was running around. Yeah, take care.